Hey everybody, it is Justin, otherwise known as Reclaimer. It's been a little bit since I've uploaded a video to my YouTube channel, and there's been a lot that's gone on in the last several years. Don't have a ton of time to do videos like I used to, but this was a topic that has been on my mind a little bit recently, and I thought, you know what? After watching probably a couple hours worth of different YouTube videos out there, I figured I'd make one of my own related to this topic because I'm hoping that this would be able to help someone else out there who is struggling with a very first world problem. And that is switching from the Apple Watch to something like a Garmin. I just want to first start off, and this is going to be kind of more of a long form video, so I'll have some timestamps down in the description for you. But I want to first start off with why I'm even making this video and what's going on. So almost 2 years ago, I had gastric sleeve surgery, and I was overweight my entire life, sometimes more than others, and I was just tired of it. And I went through the whole process where I was like, you know what, I'm sick of worrying about my weight every single day. And I went through and I had bariatric surgery. And I know some people say it's the easy way out. I will tell you, and that may be a topic for a different video, it is not an easy way out. Complete lifestyle change on my part. And it really, I think, bought me a second life, really. And uh, in so doing, I have become much more active compared to what I was in the past. I'm not a triathlete. I am not a marathon runner. I am not a huge fan of running, but I lost 140 pounds. And losing that 140 pounds gave me the ability to do things that I've always wanted to do. And my body wouldn't let me. Over the last couple of years, particularly within the last year, now that I would say I've normalized a little bit, I've taken up a myriad of different activities. I go to the gym multiple times a week and do cardio and weightlifting. When the weather's nice, I like to take my bicycle outside and go cycling or go kayaking. I've always loved to hike, and I've started taking that back up again, and I want to push myself even further. So I found myself being more active, and it's great. It's been wonderful. However, one of the things that I am, if I am nothing else, I am a nerd. And as a nerd, I love data and I love trends and I like to see how I'm doing and get insights as to how I'm doing. And for the last many years, I've had an Apple Watch. And I first started my Apple Watch journey with the very first Apple Watch. My wife got it for me for Christmas one year, was totally not expecting it. And I fell in love with the Apple Watch. I've had multiple versions of the different series. And then I purchased this Apple Watch Ultra about, I think it's been a little over 2 years now that I've had this. Because I wanted the better battery life. I wanted something a little more rugged. I wanted something that would work with me from an outdoors perspective, better than the regular, Apple Watch Series X, whatever Apple Watch series it was. So I have had an Apple Watch on my wrist every day for several years now. I would say that it's getting close to the point where I've had, and actually, now that I think about it, I've probably had an Apple Watch paired with my iPhone longer than I've actually had an iPhone with no smartwatch. What I credit the Apple Watch with is helping me to get more active. I find the fitness rings very motivational for the most part, and I'll talk about that. I really enjoy having a really smooth, crisp display on my wrist where I can get information quickly. I don't need to necessarily pull out my phone. I like having Apple Pay on my wrist. There's a lot of quality of life features that I have because I'm bought into the Apple ecosystem. I have an iPhone, AirPods, iPad Pro, MacBook Pro, Apple TVs, HomePods. I've got Apple everything in this house. I have a PC also for gaming. So I have that. I have a Steam Deck. But a lot of what I do, it's Apple. And having yet one other Apple device to be into the ecosystem with, it just makes sense. And things really do work smoothly with the watch paired within the Apple ecosystem. Using the watch to unlock your Mac, using the watch to ping your phone when you lose your phone, auto-filling codes, Apple Pay. Again, I mentioned Apple Pay. That's kind of like the killer app for this thing for me. What I have found as I am becoming more active and more fit is that the watch is starting to not have features that I would like. The first and foremost thing that you're going to find if you search any YouTube video or Reddit post on Apple versus Garmin, battery life. I am finding that I have to charge this once a day at some point. When I take it off to shower, there's times where I have to actually go out of my way and say, ooh, I better charge this because I'm not going to have enough battery for this for sleep and then for my workout the next day or whatever. I'm having to work out charging. And that's starting to get annoying. The next thing that's starting to get a little bit annoying is the fitness rings. Now, I mentioned I really like the fitness rings and they were very motivational for me. But now what I'm kind of finding as I'm becoming more active and doing different types of sports or activities is that the fitness rings are not super nuanced. It's either kind of an all or none. You either did activity or you didn't do activity. If you don't do like a certain amount of minutes for your exercise, no matter how intense that exercise might be, you still may not close that ring. And I know you can modify the rings, but it's gotten to the point where it's almost like a checkbox where, oh, got to close the rings, and not really focusing on the why of what I'm doing with fitness, and more it's become a checkbox for me. And that's not super helpful, I think, at this point. Again, I'm not a triathlete and I'm not training for a marathon or anything like that. But I think that these were really good to get me motivated, to get me going, to get me more fit and get me more active. And now that I'm not getting the insights that I would like. And instead, it's become more of a check the box activity. Now, one of the things that Apple did add recently with its Watch OS are your training load and your recovery and your overnight vitals, which it's helpful because now it's adding a little bit more of that nuance in there. But it's still, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's not giving me the insights that I think might be helpful for me at this point in my activity lifespan. The third thing that I have found recently that is starting to kind of bug me a little bit about the Apple Watch is it has really started to interrupt my life more than I would like it to. Now, granted, you can certainly do things like set up focus modes and how you get notifications when you're in focus modes. You can change your notifications based off of different apps and all of that. So I'm not saying that the Apple Watch is incapable of quieting things down. But what I am saying is the Apple Watch is designed as a smartwatch. And as a smartwatch, it gives you notifications. It lets you know what's going on. It lets you interact with things. And it does that very, very well. But I am starting to get a little bit fatigued with notifications, with having basically an iPhone light on my wrist at all times. I can't tell you how many times in the course of the last several months I have basically looked at my watch and was like, shut up, because I'm tired of you vibrating and taking me away from what I'm working on, what I'm focusing on. And as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that being constantly connected all the time is not all that it's cracked up to be. Would it be better for me at this point in my life stage is instead of having a smartwatch that is an extension of my iPhone and my other Apple ecosystem products, if I can dumb things down just a little bit and really focus more on my fitness, my activity, and the basic things that I need on a watch on my wrist, and just take one little thing out of the equation when it comes to distractions and when it comes to being constantly connected all the time. So with the holidays coming up and Black Friday deals going on and good return periods for different retailers happening, thought this might be a good time for me to try something new. So what I have been doing the last couple of weeks, honestly, I've been looking at the Garmin ecosystem. I already have a Garmin bike computer, a Garmin index scale. I have several different Garmin accessories. A couple of the things I do want to say I know right off the bat I'm going to miss when I'm doing this trial. The first thing is going to be, and you heard me mention it before, Apple Pay. Garmin Pay, it's out there. It works with pretty much all of my bank cards with the exception of my Amex. But Apple Pay is awesome. Being able to just boop, pay, where you want, or if I'm on my Mac and I'm going to do a purchase, being able to double tap on my watch and do it. I am so used to that. But here's the thing. I'm not losing Apple Pay. I'm just losing Apple Pay on my wrist. I still have an iPhone, so I can pull out my iPhone if I want to use Apple Pay. If I'm using my MacBook and I want to confirm a purchase on there, I can use my iPhone to confirm the Apple Pay. So I'm not losing Apple Pay, I'm just losing Apple Pay capability on my wrist. And if I want to use my wrist for payments, Garmin Pay will work in about 95% of all the places I want it to work. I already did some research on that. I'm aware of that. The second thing that I think I will miss about the Apple Watch would be some of the health features, safety features that the Garmin does not have by default, which mainly are going to be fall detection and crash detection. So fall detection and crash detection, I hope I never need them. But I've had a fall once and fall detection worked great. Haven't had a crash, thankfully, so I don't know how that works, but you can see plenty of news articles and videos about people who say, hey, my Apple Watch saved me this, and that. On the Garmin, there's incident detection, but it has to be paired with like a Bluetooth device, and it works with certain things, works with non-other, it doesn't work with other things. So that's going to be a silent feature that I think I'm going to miss. Another feature that I'm going to likely miss will be the responsiveness and snappiness of the UI. From what I've seen on YouTube and on Reddit, the Fenix 8 and the Instinct 3, their most recent UIs are fairly good, a little buggy, but they're fairly good, just not as snappy and quick to respond as the Apple Watch Ultra is. So I do think I am going to miss that because I do value having just nice, quick, snappy UIs. The fourth thing that I'm going to miss is just very specific niche uses of my Apple Watch, specifically with my smart home devices, not so much with like controlling the smart home devices on the touch interface with my watch, but I have a smart deadbolt that I can go put my watch up next to it and it will unlock my smart deadbolt. I do like having that feature. I do use that fairly frequently. The flip side is I can still use that. I either have to use my phone, got to pull out my phone, which might be difficult if I have my hands full, or I have to use the keypad on the deadbolt. Okay, not a big deal. So those are the things I think I'm going to miss. The things that I think I'm going to like about Garmin, one, battery life. Absolutely. I already talked about that. People beat that horse to death. I don't need to talk about that anymore. Second thing that I think I'm going to enjoy more about the Garmin ecosystem with their fitness watch will be the data and analytics that you get on your overall health and your overall fitness. Not just from workouts and activities, but the body battery, the sleep and concepts, your recovery, your strain, and just all of that working together. I understand that Apple's bringing more and more of that into play, or you can get third-party apps that will bring that into play. But I'm kind of tired of having to download an app to do something. I'm tired of paying for an extra subscription. If I can just have it all work within the Garmin ecosystem, I'd rather do that. So I think I'm going to like that more. I also think that I'm going to like having physical buttons on my watch versus the mainly touchscreen interface of the Apple Watch Ultra. The digital crown, the action button have been great with the Apple Watch Ultra, but there have been many times where I wish I had just more physical buttons to interact with my watch, especially when I'm working out in cold weather, where I'm sweating, where I'm in the rain. There are some things that you can still do on the Apple Watch Ultra with the different physical buttons, but it's not as much as what Garmin offers. And I have been finding myself increasingly frustrated with having to utilize the touchscreen. It's just been kind of getting on my nerves. So I do think I'm going to like that about the Garmin. One of the things I think I might like about having the Garmin is the fact that it is not really a smartwatch. I mentioned before, I'm getting kind of tired of everything interrupting my life, and I have so many things that call for my attention. My phone, my iPad, my Apple TVs, my MacBook Pro, my Fire pager, this, and that, right? There's so many things that are calling for my attention. I think it might be refreshing to have one less thing on my body that's begging for my attention. And yeah, with the Garmin, you're going to have different notifications and stuff like that. I still need that. I still want to know when I'm getting a message or when I'm getting a call, but I don't need to answer a phone call on my wrist. I've very rarely done that. I don't need notifications about, my air filter needs to be changed in my from my Ecobee. I'm kind of just done with all of that, and I think I might just like having a refreshing, somewhat, I don't want to call it a dumb watch because the Garmin's are not dumb watches, but having a non-smart watch on my wrist, I think might be pretty refreshing, especially when I'm at the gym or working out or going on a hike. It's going to be kind of nice to just disconnect from everything. So, all right, again, so this is going to be a very long form video. Next clip that you're going to have is going to be my purchase decision. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through, hell, I'm going to look like an idiot, but I'm going to wear both watches probably for, I'm going to say, the course of the next about month. And we're going to see how it works out. And at the end of the day, am I going to actually keep the Garmin or am I going to return it? So that's where we're going. Stay tuned.
Okay, so after some thoughts and research, I decided to get two Garmin watches to try out. The first one was the Garmin Fenix 8 51 millimeter AMOLED edition, and the second was the Garmin Instinct 3 Tactical AMOLED edition. I received both in the same day. I received the Fenix first, and it has really been impressing me so far. I'm going to add in some B-roll here and show you what I've been doing with it. And when I got the Instinct 3 and unboxed it and put it on my wrist, I wore it for maybe 2 hours and I reset it and I put it back in the box. I'm like, okay, this is not for me. Not that it was a bad watch by any means, but maybe it was a halo effect, but I really did like the premium feel of the Fenix, and I kind of liked having both the physical buttons and the touchscreen. And the other thing that I noticed when I took a hike with the Fenix was I really liked having the on-watch mapping to help me out. So that was something that kind of just took the Instinct out of the running because I couldn't download maps to it and have it available for me while hiking or out and about.
All right, so I'm about getting ready here to go on a short little hike today. Now that I have one of the watches, so 88% right now as we start. We're gonna see what this looks like when we're done with the short hike. This battery is at 20%. So far, I gotta say, really liking the different analytics I can get here. You will notice, because this is the AMOLED, you're seeing more glare here. I can tell you to the naked eye it's not that bad, but there is some glare compared to a MIP display. Not a big deal though. All right, so I just finished a hike, 2-mile hike. Just a short 2-mile hike with GPS on, using my screens pretty liberally. We're down to 86%. And we're down to 14%. So yeah, not too bad.
All right, so just a couple things I want to point out here at this point in the video. So this is now after a couple days since I made the initial video here. You're going to notice I have two watches here. On the left, I have the Garmin Fenix 8 AMOLED, and on the right, I have the Garmin Tactix 8 AMOLED. So I've actually gone through 3 different watches here in a very short period of time. Both the Fenix and the Instinct 3 Tactical Edition, I got those at the same time. I tried the Tactical Edition out of the Instinct 3 and immediately kind of put it back. It just wasn't really the build that I was looking for. It just was not a good transition from the iPhone, or the Apple Watch over to what I'm at now. I was like, okay, the Fenix has been working out super awesome for me, super happy with it. But as I was looking into different Garmin watches, the Tactix kept coming up. For a couple different reasons. One, the build is slightly different. Don't know if you can tell the difference in the bezels there. The Tactix is more flat, whereas the Fenix is a little bit more rounded off. The second thing was there's just some additional features in the Tactix 8 compared to the Fenix that I was looking for. And that includes things like the night vision mode. I do utilize nods from time to time. And I was just really looking for all of that. So there was enough for me to say I'm going to try out the Tactix now in addition to the Fenix. After about wearing this for one day, I said, you know what, this is basically everything I like in the Fenix, but it just has a better design and just a couple extra different features that it was worth me paying the extra price for the Tactix. So the Fenix is going back. And for the remainder of my test, I am going to be using the Tactix 8.
So it's been a little over a week, actually about a week and a half now, since I've been trialing just using a Garmin smartwatch compared to Apple. And I have been wearing now the Garmin Tactix 8 on my wrist for about a week. That was after trying out the Fenix 8 and briefly trying out the Instinct 3 Tactical. I quickly found out that the Fenix 8 with the AMOLED screen was definitely in my wheelhouse, I guess you would call it. It seemed to mimic a lot of what I was looking for from the Apple Watch. The AMOLED display, absolutely beautiful. And I really did like having the on-device mapping for when I was hiking. The Tactix, a little nicer design in my opinion, some extra features, was well worth the price jump from the Fenix 8 to the Tactix 8 for me. And like I said, I've been wearing this now for about a week. And I did get an aftermarket band from Bandletic that I like much better than the band that comes with the Tactix. Not that it's a bad band, I just find that the nylon bands are much more comfortable for me, especially when I'm wearing these at night to bed. This was fully charged on Saturday afternoon, and as of Friday evening, I have 52% left in my battery, and that includes with, I believe, 2 hikes on this, multiple gym trips, wearing it pretty much 24/7, sleep tracking, the whole 9 yards. I don't have the always on display on. I find that the gesture to, raise it to wake or tap is good enough for me. And I've actually sold my Apple Watch Ultra. I felt that behind the Garmin ecosystem and this Garmin watch that I was like, you know what? I think I'm actually ready to make the switch and switch over to Garmin and say goodbye to my Apple Watch Ultra. Now, if the Apple Watch Ultra ever introduces better fitness tracking and better battery life, I have a feeling I could switch back to that someday. There are still some things that I miss. Garmin Pay works actually really well for me. I found one instance where Garmin Pay did not work for me. Not a huge deal, pulled out my phone, not a problem. The noise environment scanning, I do actually kind of miss that. There are some noisy environments that I'm in, and I do kind of like to have that to just check in and make sure that I'm doing okay. So I do miss having that. And the other thing that surprisingly I miss is the speaker on the Apple Watch Ultra. There is a speaker in the Garmin Tactix, Fenix, all those higher end lines, but it is not very loud. Even at its loudest setting for the voice command assistance from the phone, I guess they call it phone assistant, it always just sounds really quiet. And that could just be, maybe it's a setting I haven't found somewhere that I need to adjust, or that's just how it is, but I have noticed that it's a little quiet. That being said, I have taken calls on this thing. I have also replied back to text messages on this and used Siri with it as well. So it's working. It's working out very well for me. So I know this was a long form video, but if you're like me and you've used Apple Watches for a long time and maybe you're finding that they're not cutting it for you anymore, I hope that this kind of gave you a better understanding of what you might want to be looking at other than just the battery life and some of the other things that you might find on videos out there on YouTube. And that this provided you with some insights that'll help you make a decision. If you have any questions or comments or observations that you've had, love to hear them. Go ahead and leave them on the video. But until next time, it's Reclaimer, and we'll see you around.